Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers live cast, The Leftovers. This is Matt. I am going to be your guest host tonight. Our regular host, Sean, the Potato Ambassador, has he's got some special time that this evening. Let's see. I think someone actually snuck in and created a banner for him. Yep. So he's getting ready for some fun medical stuff. So he won't be joining us tonight. So I want to get started right away. First of all, we had a great show last week. We had Ben from Pink Fauxhawk on, talked about all kinds of why folks love old school role-playing games, why we keep playing them, can't seem to put them down. It was really great having them on. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got coming up next, right? So tonight, we are supposed to have Amethyst Dragon on to talk about their Hoard of Everything, which is a D&D 5th edition supplement with almost 2,000 different homebrew items. And we're going to see if they are able to make it with us tonight. And after that, so for next week, we're pretty excited. We're doing something a little different. We have had some folks on as guests, either for interviews, and we've had a couple of our cast members play on some of the other some other podcasts, not AARPG, but other games like the Marvel. But this is going to be our first time where we're going to host a guest GM and some players, and we're going to have a couple of our folks playing as well. And we're going to be doing a new game that's in it it's in or wrapping up its Kickstarter. Yep. No, I think this one it's fully Kickstarted, called the Nuaden Chronicles. And we'll show a couple screenshots of that here in a minute. It is as they describe it, explore a post-apocalyptic world filled with magic, electric-powered steam tech, ancient ruins, and dark secrets. And they call it an electro fantasy tabletop RPG. So next week, we are going to do the introduction to the system a little more deep than I'm going to just kind of brush over tonight. And we're also going to do character creation. And then the following Thursday, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have a special 2-hour leftovers. And we're going to have... we're actually going to do a play test the game with our, like I said, with our guest GM and our players. We'll have more info on that next week. And so I just want to go ahead and I'm going to show this real quick. So I'm talking about it. This is from their Kickstarter site. So I'm a sucker for, I'm a Rifts player. I love Shadowrun. Just the whole concept of the mix of technology and magic are, at least for me, those are pretty awesome. And so, oh my gosh, look at that. So, this is what I get for not having been the second person. So I'm a sucker for it. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. I'm going to look over here at the chat. I got, yep. So there's Sean now. He's, late. Never happens when I'm hosting. I know, Sean. You're the best at this. But I hope you're enjoying watching this from your throne. I hope you're having a good time. How's it going, Darcy? Good to see you. Oh my goodness. And our very own Potato Ambassador is giving us our first super chat. Thank you, Sean. Much appreciated. I usually in person, you just tuck it in my G string, but I'll take it digitally. Thank you. All right. Well, so here's their page. This is, it looks like 440 backers, almost $35,000 for this project. So it's fully funded. Just going to go through here. What is cool, if you go to this page, and once this is done, I'll go ahead and put the URL out there. You can also, if you got a chance, you want to just grab it off of there. There is a downloadable quick start guide. Right. So right off the bat, and I think this is a great thing. And I think Nathan mentioned this one of us mentioned it. These quick start guides are the way to go. Like, let people get a taste of the rules, the lore, some of the character creation, even before the game comes out. That's a good way to drum up interest, get people kind of imagining, oh, this is how I would play this game. Right. But yeah, you can just go down here and click it. It'll open up a PDF. And for a quick start guide, it's pretty extensive, right? I mean, it's got a lot of stuff in here. It walks through, and this is what we'll be using for the game. A lot of the background, kind of explains the sort of what happened, to the Earth, where we are in it. It's got your different characters, right? So the different kinds of characters that you can be. Everything after this notice is for the GM's eyes only. Well, I am going to peek behind the curtain a little bit, right? So they talk about, so here's like some of the technology, right? So there is technology. I like that this is like wood panel for like a hover vehicle. Yep. So I don't think I'm going to go much farther because I think that's the game and I don't want to ruin anything. So this is the quick start guide. You can get kind of familiar with the setting. And so that is going to be what we're doing in the next couple of weeks. Let me see. Another thing that's kind of cool. So I know folks are really interested in the new second version of Alien. And I don't know how many of you guys, one of the big things is that they're going to be doing battle maps and so up to this point, if you've played any of the Aliens games, let me see. This is kind of what you get for your map, right? They're really cool. They kind of capture the essence of like sort of the old CRT monitors. But if you're looking at a tactical or if you don't have glasses, sometimes they can be, they're not going to work for like a tactical map. So one of the things in Aliens in the second version that they're going to come out is that they heard, I guess, a demand signal to have more battle maps. I mean, Aliens, we played it largely, I think, we used a VTT, I think, for the first time around. But I think if we could play it, you could use just Theater of the Mind, but having a battle map might also be a lot of fun given the sort of the tactical nature of the game. And so here are some previews of the new maps, right? And so this is, should probably bring this up. Yeah, so these are not going to be like those CRT monitors. These are going to be full blown maps, right? Where you're going to be able to have, either if you wanted to print this out, you could have real miniatures, or if you were in, a VTT, or just basically even using anything like Google plots, you could, you could have this in there, right? So I think that's that's kind of one of the little things we wanted to show. And after that, that's really, so I think we're kind of waiting on, it's about 17 minutes after. I'm not sure if our guest tonight is going to make it. We'll see. I'm going to check my email and see if he's reached out. This does happen. Oh, here we go. All right, he might be getting on. See if we can get him in here. This is the wonder of live, not having anything out there. Let's go out to. Yes, we did use a VTT. Sean, do you remember we used Roll20 the first time? Did we use Foundry for the second one, the one that Tier ran? Oh, this. Already did it, Sean. Already told him. Riveting. All right. So I'm going to do...
Okay, I can't do it anymore.
Can't do it anymore. I know
No,
silence
I got a
is,
break. I got a break. I got a break between. So I'm having a medical procedure tomorrow.
oh, I just...
Oh shit. Is
There you go.
I have a procedure tomorrow, and I have to purge myself for this procedure. When you get older, you get procedures, and so I didn't want to be on here running back and forth. But I feel okay. I probably got about 20 minutes. Yeah, we did use that. We used the VVT and we used Foundry. I think we tried Foundry. Nathan found the maps chunky with the icons. That's why he didn't like the old system. So with the green, it just did. It looks cool, but if you're running a game, he had some issue. Up, hi there, Tad here. Might not have a proper link to join. So Amethyst Dragon needs a better link, Matt. If you want to send it to him.
Ah, okay. Let me kick that out to him.
So
somehow.
So while that goes on, this is our www.theaarpgs.com/cast. If you want to check up on us, please like, follow, and subscribe. We have the super chat, which works. You don't have to join it. I'm just surprised it worked. I thought YouTube would take our money from us. We'll see. I did a demo of $2. He'll be on in a minute, and as he said, we're going to play this game live in a couple, like next week. I probably will not be staying for the whole game character rolling. I'm going to watch and sort of do it on my own. So I know it'll break your hearts. It's hard to do this alone. So Matt's been doing a good job. I've been busting his balls on the chat, but he's been doing a good job. But anywho, yeah, we are, as our podcast goes, we're sort of getting close to the end of Dragonbane. We have a Coriolis, which is going to come up eventually. We're going to put that out, right? Or did we already do that? Was live, wasn't it?
We did live Coriolis the Great Dark.
He's here.
Here we go. All right.
There he is. Hey, Nathan.
Hey there.
No problem. No problem. Technical difficulties. Thanks you for joining us. Matt might have told you what's going on with me, so I might jump off shortly. But Matt's going to run the interview, and he's already done an introduction into some of your stuff. So I'll let Matt take it away.
Well, all right. So sort of, I was doing a lot of tap dancing up here to sort of, it's like, hey, what's going on with
Sorry
me?
about that.
Yeah, no, it's okay. This is what I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing too. So there we go. All right. Yeah, no. So luckily, I usually have a few announcements to make anyway. We were kind of talking about some of the stuff that's coming on in the future episodes. But yeah, apologize for the snafu for the link. So let's just go ahead and I'm gonna see if I can get this to do what I want it to do. So tonight we're gonna be talking to Amethyst Dragon, or Nathan, however you want to go, and their Hoard of Everything, right, which is a massive supplement for D&D 5th edition with almost 2,000 homebrew items. So let's just go ahead and kick this off. So let's start with telling the viewers a little bit about yourself and how you got into TTRPGs.
Sure. Hi, my name is Nathan. I have been the Amethyst Dragon online for more than 28 years now. January of 1996. And I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 35 years now. My best friend at the time in 7th grade was given some first edition AD&D books and some dice, and he was the first DM. Neither of us knew what we were doing, but it had swords, it had dragons, it had magic, and I was hooked. It's just a game of imagination, so that's what I do is I imagine things, and now I actually put them into writing. I mean, I've been putting them into writing this whole time, but I put them online for people. This is now my first time ever creating an actual book. And of course, being me, I kind of went overboard with my first ever thing. I did the same thing when I tried doing cosplay too. It just went overboard.
Well, it's pretty. You know, this starter thing for you overboard is great. I'm going to say right now, it's very. What I've been looking at, I started looking at earlier this evening. It's pretty meaty and it looks very enjoyable. I didn't want to go too deep into it because I'm going to be next week. We're going to be sitting there and you're going to be
Sean,
destroying
I think
us.
yeah. So I want to apologize. So Sean, we threw you off. We switched topics, right? So that's next week.
Oh, that's next week. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. No, that's yeah. No. I know we got so much now. We can't keep track of what we're doing. So no. So this is for Amethyst, the Hoard of Everything. This is going to be a D&D supplement, right? So
Yes.
So how did you get
too.
started creating? Like, so when did you? So we've talked about this on our show before. A lot of us do mostly exclusively homebrew stuff. And so how did you start? Like, what was the impetus for you to go from like the printed modules and all that to homebrew? And how did this sort of, I don't know, this clearly, I don't want to use the word obsession with creating home, but you've got a lot of homebrew stuff. How did that start?
It started when I was a teenager because I had no money. So I couldn't buy things like modules or campaign settings or anything like that. I had a player's handbook and I had some dice. I think I got a I picked up a Dungeon Master's Guide, 2nd edition stuff.
Okay.
When I bought my own books. So D&D's always been a game of making stuff up. And when you don't have a module or money for all these books, you're making stuff up along the way. I made up my own campaign world. I've been running that same one for 3 decades now. And I run it in a weekly game still. Use it as my setting. But, I've always had ideas for stuff. And back in school, I wrote them down. Had on paper at first, then on the computer. I have things on an old dot matrix printout still in a folder. As time goes on, I've gotten better at making things more balanced instead of just, hey, this is a cool idea, and it would totally wreck a game.
Yeah.
So that eventually, when I switched to 5th edition, back in 17, it had been out for a few years by then. But when I switched to 5th edition, I had a better idea of balancing things. And then comparing it to actually other 5e stuff, I could balance it against that. It made it very easy. It was very standardized. But like I said, I've been doing this for decades. And I picked up a few things here and there. And the stuff I've written has been for my own games, for an online version of my game, requests of people. I've made stuff on commission, on request. And sometimes I just get an idea and I got to make it.
How long have you been publishing? I'm sorry, I'm just curious, like putting stuff out. Because this manual with all this stuff in it, which Matt talked about, I'm a little delirious. I'm on the medication, but it's you talked about, and now you're telling me, oh yeah, I've done this for a while. So how long have you been? When did you first put something out like, hey, this is my creation, or like market it? And today.
I have, with 3rd edition stuff, I put some stuff online. Back when Wizards of the Coast had a D&D forum. A bulletin board type deal. And lots of people made up spells and monsters and stuff, put it on there, and I did some stuff on there. And then I switched to playing Neverwinter Nights. Because I was secluded from people down in Arizona, and it was the closest thing, probably still, that you'll ever find to real D&D online that's not on a virtual tabletop.
I gotcha.
I made up stuff for that. I learned how to make 3D models. I learned how to code for the game.
Jeez, that's good.
And then I'd burn myself out on that. But I did it for like 15 years. But then I came back to tabletop. And by the time I came back to tabletop, 5th edition was out. So I went from 3rd to 5th. I just skipped over 4th because I wasn't actually playing D&D at the time. So people badmouth 4th, but I never really had a chance to play it. So I just skipped it.
So 4th edition, huh? Right? That's an interesting one. People talk about that. I have it. We played it. I don't have the bitter memories that a lot of people have.
I mean, people played it. It's D&D.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got a point. Yeah.
And you know, kind of I understand what they were going for at that time. Like Worlds of Warcraft had exploded, right? It was like this massive, game. And I remember when we switched over and started playing it, I was like, oh yeah, you're going for the. And I would argue that maybe Hasbro's trying to do that again, where they realize there's such a huge market. Because I don't know, you said you played like Neverwinter Nights, and I know some of our group, like I'm one of those people who plays pen and paper, but I also play a lot of digital. But we have some of our group that just doesn't play digital.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who only play digital, who either are uncomfortable or not familiar with, but could maybe, enjoy playing pen and paper also. So I think that's what, fourth, but I don't think you missed anything either.
No, I agree. I think it's like you said, it's D&D, right? And it just evolves, right? So it's like I mean, them trying to change the system now as you put this out must have been like, oh, great, perfect timing, and it has dark comedy. But I think 5e is going to hang on because it's such
I think it will too.
Yeah, it's versatile. There's so much you can do with it, and I think what you got there is a big resource for anybody. I mean, because you're coming at it you've been creating and you've been involved for, like you said, back in the 90s for third edition, right? So. Yeah, you can't get rid of that experience. If you ever watched us, our friend Malcolm, how he just talks, and he's very eloquent. That didn't start overnight. He was a little clumsy back in college. I'll just say that. But no, please, Matt, you got something else? I thought
you're saying so you've been running a game for 30 years. Is this with the same group, or is this the world has persisted?
The world has persisted. It has been lots of players. It started in high school with like my brother and then some other people, and then continued it in college. And then after college, when I moved, I had another group down there that had members come in and out. And then I moved back to, then I ran it. It was the same setting I used for Neverwinter Nights. I built my world in Neverwinter Nights.
Huh.
And hosted on a server in my basement 24/7 for 11 years. So I had people from around the world logging into my game. So they became, my players as well. Mm. And then when I came back to pen and paper and running a game, that same setting. And then when I switched to VTTs because of the pandemic, same setting. It lets me improvise and make anything up, make any changes I want. There's no such thing as canon content in my setting between campaigns.
Okay. It sounds like you had an advantage. You got an advantage just by playing with people before all this started, online stuff, because just by necessity, right? Right. When the pandemic hit, you were like, oh, this is easy. Like when the pandemic hit, we were like, how do we do this? And we stumbled along. You're probably just like, oh, this is old hat. You just went in and did it.
Once I learned how to use Roll20, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Roll20 is, especially with D&D, it's we've had some good luck with it, I think. We have, as you know, the Roll20 issues, like it randomly crashes or there's an update. But besides that, I thought it worked pretty good for us.
And we used to have it connected with, we'd run it, when I ran for ours, I connected it with D&D Beyond. So it was great. So I just build everything in D&D Beyond. And it's a good, so for all the homebrew, I guess one thing is, where do you draw inspiration from when you're creating homebrew content?
Literally anything and everything. Movies, books, vegetables, cats. I have
the grocery store. Or are you hanging around in the ICU? Like, what's going on? No.
I had
like.
Oh, Jesus, Matt.
Produce vegetables.
Sorry.
Produce vegetables.
Sorry.
No, I had somebody. I have a Patreon. I eventually switched when I started doing 5th edition stuff, and I had 100 or so homebrews. I'm like, I'm gonna do this Patreon thing and get a couple bucks, which is what I get. I get like $115 a month on it, which is not a lot compared to some other people who've been doing this stuff. But
oh yeah, well,
I don't do a lot of drawing, and I don't have the big name recognition. But I have some patrons, and they can ask me for things. And one of them had a player who was obsessed with potatoes and wanted a mashed potato spell
Really?
that could do
I'm a
damage
big
or
potato
heal.
guy. Oh, really?
But he also qualified for getting through my Patreon, getting me to make a magic item. Well, he didn't have an idea for that, and I'm like, well, okay, you know what? Potatoes have eyes. Here's a magic potato that once a day it will cast alarm for you as it keeps watch.
That's awesome.
And it's actually called the Watchful Eyes, and it is not a dead potato. It is a living potato that you have to replant like once every month or two.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Do you have to put like the sticks in it or whatever?
Just stick in the dirt.
You put the. Okay.
Natural camouflage. It's perfect. It's great.
Nice.
But then if you eat it, you actually grow like eyes all over your body, and you can see in every direction. But it's very confusing. And those only last like a day. But yeah, like a potato. I made a crossbow based on the fact on how cats, their vision is attracted to movement. So with this crossbow, you would get advantage on the shot only if your target moved at least 10 feet since your last turn.
That is pretty insightful. That's pretty creative. I'm going to give you credit.
I've made stuff. I have a lot of silly things, but they're all functional in the game. Like the Path of the Vegetarian. It's the Vegetarian Barbarian.
Oh, no.
And they can actually use like plant matter as a weapon that will really hurt things. They also get things like, a feature called an apple a day, where if they like eat a fresh crunchy vegetable and somebody else sees them do it, they get like bonus health or something. I can't remember exactly what it is. Or one of their higher level things is they can actually like shame their enemies because of their meat-based diet and how a vegetable diet is so much more efficient and better for the environment, and they can make people feel bad about what they eat. But it's got a game effect.
It's funny you talk about food. So I introduced my oldest plays, right? But my youngest is old enough, like about a year ago, to actually introduce to D&D, right? And so he loves bread, like it's all about bread. So he played a monk, and he asked me, he's like, well, can I just have like 2 hard loaves of bread over my fists? Like bread fists or something. I was like, sure. So I had to come up with like baguette fists or something. It was like
the baguette.
Yes, right.
Hardtack of pummeling.
Right. So just given that, so you mentioned that, so you do art as well. Like, do you do your own art, or I know
I do some of it.
And I guess you do some of it. So I do want to say, so, and this is maybe, hey Sean, you get to be on for like a semi-con. So I was reading through like your Kickstarter, right? And so I know it's a hot topic right now. You were very clear that your product does not, the writing and the art, that there is no AI generated content. And so I wanted to ask like your thoughts on sort of the negatives, the risks, the temptations for third-party content creators to kind of lean on those tools versus, not using those tools for your product. Because again, it's very clear that there's no content in this that is derived from that. So just your thoughts. I mean, no right, no wrong. I'll just
Oh, sure. I am very in support of people doing their writing and people doing art. There are people who are very good artists, and they deserve to get paid for their work, for their skill, for their education. So for my book, I chose specifically not to use, and I do all my own writing, so I don't need it. I have my ideas and I write them out. I don't need the AI to do that for me. But when it came to art, I'm like, I'm only going to use human-made art. I do some of my own sketches, so some of my illustrations are in the book. I commissioned the book cover, which was incredibly expensive for me at the time. I had been saving up for a new computer, and that took all of those funds. But I made a sketch, and I sent it to this artist. I looked at artists that did dragons and then looked for ones that got a style of dragons that I liked. Like if I'm going to be paying all this money for art of a dragon, then it's going to be something that I'm going to like. And I found a guy who did some stuff, and it's in a Wizards of the Coast book.
I think you're right. Get what you want, right? If you're going to put something out, get what you want.
Yeah, so I did a sketch and I sent it to him, and he, did several work throughs, and then he sent the finished thing to me, and then I made some tweaks to it because I made sure that I own the copyright for that. Because it's going to be on my book. I want to be able to use it for marketing or make any changes that I want. So I made a few changes to that. So that's a nice collaborative piece. And then I commissioned a piece for inside. And then I bought stock art from actual artists. And I got public domain artworks from museum websites.
Smart.
So,
yeah. we have a friend that's an artist, a couple friends. So that's been a debate. The Wosos prefer one of our friends was involved, I think, in a writer's strike or something. So we bought art for him from one of our, he drew some. He's an amazing artist.
For our
Jody
current
Schaefer.
one.
Yeah, Jody Schaefer, amazing artist. But I get it, trademarking your stuff, and it is concerning, right? Because there's these crazy AI videos, and there's people do AI art, and not all of them have 7 fingers. Some have the right number.
I mean, at first glance, some of the AI stuff artwork. I call it more AI generated images. I figure art is people made, but some of it, at first glance, hey, that's kind of neat, and then you start looking at it like there's something not quite right about it. Even if the finger numbers is right or something, there's something like it's too smooth, or there's something about it. But I get why some people want to use it. One, because it's free, but two, because people that like D&D stuff, they like the pretty pictures. And I saw that effect firsthand when I first started making homebrews and putting them like on Reddit and stuff. I would go online and I would find art on like ArtStation or DeviantArt, and I would put it in, made sure I gave credit to the person, and I get a whole bunch of views and comments on the thing I made. But then when I started doing Patreon, I stripped all of that out because it didn't feel right using somebody else's art if I'm going to be making even $1 on it. And when I stopped using art like that, the comments, the engagement, it all dropped off. So I can see where where people want that art for their homebrews on the imagery side. And then I took up sketching because I wanted some of my stuff to be illustrated. So I do pencil and paper sketching now. And so that's some of what's in my book. And as far as the writing side goes, I can see some people going, well, I have a vague idea. Let me put something into Chat GPT and have it spit out like a whole complete thing for me. And look, my work is done. But even then, you can look at it and goes, it doesn't sound quite right.
We did that, I think, with somebody we screwed around with that, and some of the stuff we got was ridiculous. I remember one night we were screwing around with chat.
Which is playing around,
putting stuff in there. And in the beginning, you're walking down a beautiful hallway. This is this, and a kabata drops out or something. You're like, what?
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense. It's all wonky.
It's a strange thing too, because I think I'm torn on some of the things because I'm not a very good artist, right? And so I have a lot of fun, like with my kids, like when we're waiting for something, I'll be like, name me 2 animals, right? And I'll have it do something like creates like a horse monkey or something, right? But it's not the same as drawing, right? And definitely for writing for me, because I like to, that's probably the one thing I can't do. I can write, right? So I do a lot of campaign writing, a lot of home writing. I've played around with prompts on ChatGPT. It's interesting, but it's not rewarding. It doesn't feel like I wrote anything. And so, I kind of get that too. Like I want to be the one who writes it,
I will, grammar errors. Those are going to be mine. Spelling errors. I use Word will do spell check for me.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you, Word. Thank you, spell check.
But even then, spell check only catches misspelled words. It doesn't catch misused words.
True.
Yeah, you might want to upgrade to Grammarly.
It'll take some of your misspelled words, correct them to the wrong.
To wrong word. Yes.
To the wrong word. Yeah.
Yes.
Now I've taken a commonly misspelled word and turned it into something for homebrew and in the book. How many people can't spell the word rogue online?
Oh, a lot.
Oh, they always spell it like rouge,
Rouge.
right? Or something, rouge or something.
Yeah, so I made a rouge rogue subclass.
Yeah. They're pretty.
Yeah,
You got some
Nice.
makeup on there, pal.
it's more the color red and being angry. They get to go into a rage like a barbarian.
Oh,
But as a rogue,
Yeah, and so they could sneak attack. They could do a sneak attack with a greatsword while they're raging.
that's silly. That's
you're hidden until you make the attack. I assume, right? It's like
Sneak
you're
attack isn't
basically
necessarily
sitting-
being hidden. It's like taking the opportunity for extra damage. You can
right,
do it in
right.
the middle of a fight when your enemy is distracted by the party's fighter or whatever. That's the great things about rogues. They don't have to be hidden. It doesn't have to. It's a little misnamed now with 5th edition. It could be like I don't know. It could use a new name because sneak attack
because when I
involves,
think of it,
makes you think of sneaking in like you used to have to do.
right, right.
But now it's more like you have the chance to hit an extra sensitive spot and do extra damage.
Because they're distracted.
They're
right?
distracted. They're not keeping as close eye. They can't keep a close eye on you and the fighter and the wizard, and so. But yeah, I have fun with those, with misspellings and stuff like that. So
let me see if I can do this correctly, so you'll realize I am the less than technical here.
There we go.
I want to bring up. So it says in here, right on off of here, 1,700 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to, if you don't mind, I was going to go through. This was on your page 2. These are just some of the things that are included in this, right? And so looking through here, and it's for me like 40 feats. That's a lot of feats.
That's a lot of
right?
feet.
That's a lot of feet, right?
And for me, that doesn't seem like a lot, but 5th edition, there's a lot of coverage on feats already. And feats are more powerful in 5th edition than like when 3rd edition, when they came into the game and you had whole feat trees and, fighters.
That's true.
A crap ton of them.
Yeah.
So feats in 5th edition are a little stronger. Some of them are multi-purpose. So 40 doesn't seem like a lot to me, but then you look at the books, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it kind of is.
Yeah, because they tend to be fairly broad. It's like, well, you're really good with it's like cleaving, so it's all the big hacky things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm faster on initiative, or and then you've got here 433 spells.
Yes.
Now, granted, this is over time, right? But so is this like is this something that you really enjoy doing, or is this has this come up from players in your games being like, I've got this wizard, he's really great, but I wish I could just do X, right?
Those spells aren't so much from my players as they are from me over time. A few of them are from my 2nd edition days and 3rd edition days, and just updated to 5th edition. For a while in 3rd edition, I was doing like themed sets of spells. So they're like reflavors of spells that would fit a theme, like spiders or darkness or ice. So there's a bunch of those, but then I keep coming up with more and more and more. I get an idea, I write it down. Sometimes that idea gets taken from my to-do list and actually written out and statted out. So I like spells.
Well, it looks like you got other stuff. Like you had 128 pieces of adventure gear, and then some of that stuff comes in quite handy when you work out your character. So that sounds pretty interesting to me.
Oh yeah, there's armor,
like
there's weapons, there's other stuff, there's alchemy equipment, some herbalism stuff I've made up that's included in that 128.
And then you have all the subclasses you've built off of what's already there. It looks like 108, which is pretty interesting too.
Yeah, there are 108 in the book.
In the book,
there's at least 2 per class because I did make 2 for artificers. I don't use any of the class layout structure, so I slip by on the intellectual property of wizards. Like artificer is an actual word in the real world. They can't copyright that. And then when I describe the subclass, there's nothing actually referencing their actual mechanics in the book.
Okay.
So you can use it in your game.
Yeah, it's smart.
Whereas all the other ones are part of the system reference document. I can use those however I want. So I've made a lot of subclasses. I have ideas, like I mentioned a couple of them, but every class has multiple. There's like dragon themed ones for every class except for sorcerers because they already had one.
Huh, wow. So
that gives a lot more variety for players, right?
Yeah, it does.
That's one of the things that's always dangerous is that you don't want your character to be like anyone else's character, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to have the same, I'm fighter 1, you're fighter 2, right? So that's very cool. And let me go, because this is not it. There's a lot more. So Adventures GM. So plot hooks, 528 magic items.
Magic items are the bread and butter of homebrew making, honestly. You have an idea, you make it a magic item. You have an idea for a treasure, it's a magic item. Now, granted, I specifically also make non-magical treasures, but magic items, those were what I started with back in 2nd edition, and my list is full of ideas of ones I've never made yet. But the 528 got put into the book at the end of November last year. That's when I stopped including my homebrews that I put on Patreon. I cut myself off. I've still been making 2 or more things every single week since then, and it has been online. It's not in the book yet, or it won't be in the book. But so people will buy the book and they're like, "Hey, I like this stuff. Is there more?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I don't stop.
Yeah, no, you gotta have a plan for the future, right?
Yeah, you gotta have a Hoard of Everything too.
Yeah, but I actually have added 12 more pages to the book. I just finished the 12th extra page today because the campaign did reach 3 out of the 4 stretch goals after it funded. Then I'm like, okay, if I get to this level, I'll be able to do wholesale pricing for local game stores. And then I'm like, okay, so what could I do beyond that? Okay, if I get this, I'll do 4 more pages of this. If I get this, I'll do 4 more pages of this. So I added more metals and minerals and plants and non-magical treasures. So I just finished those 12 extra pages today.
I was curious about that, the fantasy metals, minerals, and stuff like that. Is that designed for world building, right? So I'm thinking, is this for just for how phrase good? Is it for specifically just for flavor and describing your world, or are these metals? And I'm going to tap into the video game world. Are these metals things that people can acquire and then have properties for like swords and armor? And again, this is more maybe a video game view of this than traditional TTRPGs, but or what is the role of sort of these materials?
Oh, they definitely can be. A lot of them have game effects, but a lot of it necessarily isn't going to be used by players, but they could take it to somebody who's skilled enough to work with this stuff and get something made out of it that they could then use, or they could find something made out of it, or for the DM just to go, yeah, I made up this sword, but it's made out of this weird metal here. Like I think I included one in there was the fermentium blade, and fermentium is one of the metals. You get hit with it, you get drunk.
Dark would love that.
Or I kept thinking of the game I ran. You guys would have just all sat around all day and stabbing each other.
Oh yeah, that's true. We did. Oh my god! And he has got but he's got 20 special diseases that are different, which could be like
which I could have used for my game too.
Yes,
for you guys.
So 40 different poisons. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff you can get in trouble with here, which is hilarious. Not counting the foes and monsters you got listed in there.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, real people have to think about poisons and diseases, and there's so many stories in like fantasy worlds or whatever. Oh, there's this plague or whatever, and we got to find these certain things for a cure, or whatever. Well, normal D&D, you can go, lesser restoration. Oh, I'm a paladin, I'm just going to touch them. I made some diseases that can't be cured that easily, and other ones that are really going to affect NPCs and not player characters, like the commoner's cold. because the common cold is a thing. Well, the
Right.
commoner's cold
The commoner's
is a thing.
Yeah. You have the 2-dimensional virus. Yes.
Yeah. Or I made up a fun one called Affluenza.
Oh God, that's awesome.
You just
I
burp money or something, or like
No. If you have too much money, and there's a very, very rare chance you can get this disease. And the only way to actually cure it is to spend enough time away from valuable things. But it's named after the real world phenomenon of people who grew up rich and thinking they could get away with anything and not having any real, moral anchor or whatever because they're so rich. And it was called Affluenza, and I just thought it sounded fun to make a D&D disease name that.
Yeah, it's like the
That's
Lord of the Rings. It's like Lord of the Rings, the gold sickness. You got too much gold around.
Oh,
you
for the dwarves, right?
Yeah, it's great. I like that.
So that's what I was wondering about the poisons and the diseases. How many of those you just modeled after like real world, or how many, right? Like unicorn pox or something, right? So there's a lot of sort of fantasy, diseases.
Yeah, there's fantasy in it, but there's also stuff based out of real world things like or pop culture things. Like there's a pop culture disease in here called Miranda's Calm. And not many people recognize it unless they've seen the movie Serenity.
Ah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So there's little stuff like that. But also, like, with poisons especially, there's a thing in here called Blinding Beauty Extract. It's belladonna. It's based on the real thing. Or urushiol oil. That's the stuff that makes you itch from poison ivy.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I've included things like that in here too. I updated some of the SRD poisons. I basically gave the poisons and diseases mechanical structure, so they all have like an onset time, or different dosages for poisons. How you can cure these diseases. Do you become resistant to a disease after you've experienced it? That is something I included in the book. Just to make these things a bit more interesting.
That's very cool.
I also added variant versions of the poison condition, like intoxicated. Or not all these poisons give you technically the poisoned condition. They have a specific things that they do, unless it just says the poison condition.
Oh, like is it like a track? Do any of them like kind of advance through stages, or is it just here's a condition for this if you fail like your con check or something like that?
Well, it depends. Like, was it a small dosage, a mild dose? Then it might have this condition here, like alcohol is a poison in here, because alcohol is literally a poison.
Right.
But a small dose will give you the intoxicated condition, which gives you like disadvantage on dex, but like advantage on charisma checks because it's social.
Everybody
it's a social
loves
lubricant.
you, right?
Yeah, you're easygoing, and it's a social lubricant. But if you have like a massive dose of it, then you get into the really detrimental things.
Well, that is very cool.
But there's a variety of poisons that have different effects. Monsters,
so you also got 115 monsters and multi-use NPC. So what's a multi-use NPC?
Think of it like a generic bandit stat block. That's what I'd call a multi-use NPC. It's not a monster, but as far as D&D is concerned, it is. But you can use them in multiple places, reuse them, change them. Whereas like the unique ones, they're individuals with personalities and histories or things that they do. So that's how I see the difference between like a unique NPC and like a multi-use one.
Okay. So you have some that are like bandit, thug, but then you have actually ones that you have fleshed out.
Yes.
More of a story. There are, they call them 2.5 dimension characters, right?
Yeah.
They're not just, okay. All right. Do you have a favorite monster you've designed?
Ooh.
Or was it the one that's been the most feared by players who have encountered it?
The carnivorous chicken. They look just like regular chickens, only their beaks are extra sharp and they really, really like fresh meat.
Oh no!
I actually had a player character killed by one of them in the only session he attended in my game.
Oh my gosh.
His character was very successful. He went out, hunted deer, bagged a deer, brought it back. They put it on their wagon, and they happened to go near a flock of these chickens, and he was defending his deer that he had successfully hunted, and the smell of it attracted the chickens, and they're just fun.
Oh my gosh. So they're not lone hunters. This is pack hunters, right?
No, you hardly ever see a one chicken on its own.
That's one big ass chicken.
Right.
They're just regular sized chickens. They just happen to be dangerous.
Very cool.
And carnivorous.
That would be great.
This is off of your Kickstarter site, right? This is an example. This is in the pop-up pages.
Oh yeah.
I think this is from the spells section. This one caught my eyes too. Is the double vision? I know you're talking about. It's so funny. You get the sword of, was it inebriation, or the metal, right? What was that called? The
fermentation.
But then I saw, and I was, fermentium. Yeah. So I got to remember that fermentium. But then I saw this one too. I thought the same thing, like double vision. It's like having like, here's like an instant. So this is kind of an example of something from your book, right?
Yeah, this is one of the spell pages, and these are some of the themed spells. I had a section of spells that were all themed on eyes or vision. And so I named them after a fictitious NPC that I made up named Oculus, because, eyes. And so, like double vision, frigid gaze, frightening gaze. Some of it's based on phrases and idioms, the names of some of these.
Right.
And I turn them into things that you can use in the game.
Do you have to play is the auditorial or the auditory component for this? That I can't sing it, but that song, what is that? She gives me double vision. I don't know.
Double Vision by Foreigner.
Yeah.
There you go.
By Foreigner. There you go.
Could totally make
Very
that,
cool.
especially if you have it as a bard spell.
As a bard, yeah. All right. Well, so I just want to make sure before we go, there's probably a ton of other questions I've got. I didn't ask. I know we got kind of off to a late start, so I really wanted to make sure. And later when this gets on, it's published, we'll throw the links to like some of your sites. I've got like your Kickstarter site. Now your Kickstarter's closed, but I saw on the page it's still, and I'm not a Kickstarter aficionado. Mm-hmm. So it says you can take, what's that called? You can still contribute, right? You could still
late pledges. Yeah, it's something Kickstarter just recently started. It used to be when a Kickstarter ended, that was it. You couldn't get in on it anymore. But now they added this thing called late pledges, and they recommend raising your price 10% over your Kickstarter price. Kind of incentivize people to, pledge during the Kickstarter. But this way, people can still get in on it. My prices aren't 10%. I just brought them up to list price. For the late pledges, basically you can pledge on it, and I will be closing those out right before I make the order to the printing company. I don't have an exact date on that yet. I have to do some illustrations, and then I'll be done. I got to send out the surveys and things like that, and so people can go. They can late pledge if they want to. I should have some extra books left over afterwards that I will be selling like in person or at conventions or something. I don't know.
Yeah, cool.
I like to go to game. I am going to be.
Well, that's one of the things you can do. That's I noticed too. So
are you going to be at PAX Unplugged coming up?
I don't have any plans for going this year. I'm looking at for next year. I would wait till I actually had the book to decide. Is it worth it to try to get like a vendor spot?
That's you thinking. That's not me.
Yeah.
But one of the pledges was an autographed copy of the book.
That's what I was going to say, because you've got actual sort of like what I would call traditional tiers. Like there's a digital, a handheld, both. But then you have like things that are like add-ons, right? So there's signed. Mm-hmm. You can get your name in there. And I thought it was really cool. You have one that's called Get Your Party in there.
Yeah. There's add-ons to it. You can get your name in, like the VIP backers page, because some people, it's worth it to say my name's in a book. Check it out. And also, little more, they could do like a group of either players, or it could be like a group of PCs, their names in there, as like the adventuring party. So they could add that. There's going to be a few of those in there.
That's very cool. Is there anything else that you would like to leave our audience, either who's on tonight or who will watch this later recorded? Now's your chance.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I am making new stuff constantly. I'm dedicated to getting this book out and finished. But even as I'm doing that, I'm still making things several times a week. And you can find everything on my main website. It is amethyst-dragon.com. Everything is there. The Kickstarter's link there. The book is there. All the homebrews there. There's a giant list. And I keep that updated. Every time I make something and put it on Patreon, I put the link on there. There's at least 600 things on there that are free. They're on Patreon, but they're free. So you can check out the stuff I make. If you're, thinking about the book and you have an idea, I'd like, want to see one of these Elemental Dragonborn. You can go and download it and use it. That one's free. And like I said, I'm adding stuff all the time. I do 2 themed months every year where I do something based on a theme daily. And those are always fun. But yeah, if you
this is
want
the scroll.
it is. You're getting down there. You're almost through the subclasses.
Oh, hold on. Let me just go over here. I am still. I don't want to fly through, but yeah, this is.
Yeah, all the stuff with the little purple shield that is only in the book. I wrote that specifically for the book. But I did a poll at one time, and my patron said, "Yeah, put that on the list. We want to see what to expect. We want to know what to look forward to in the book." So I started adding it, and adding it, and adding it. Oh yeah, I got a newsletter. That was something. If you're doing a Kickstarter, they say have a newsletter so you have people's email addresses, and you should have like hundreds of email addresses before you run your first Kickstarter. I didn't know that, so I just added that in like May. So I have like 20 people signed up for my newsletter.
Hey,
but in my newsletter, I go through and I link to everything that I made in the previous month.
I just want to look here because I love these names, right? Black Ash Rot, Blood Rash, Bloody Doom, Bloodborne Oyster Larvae.
A lot of blood going on.
That's boneborne, but that's a specific type of oyster. I did underwater themed things in May.
There's the commoner's cold.
Yeah. I called it mermaid, and there's a type of oyster that's really, really delicious, and it's like a luxury item. That might be over in the foods, I think, listed there. But there's one that looks almost the same, but when you eat it, larvae grow inside of you and drive you to find the nearest ocean, and then you drown yourself. As they grow inside of you and are like, use your bones to form their first shells.
Never showed it. We're going to never show this to our Nathan. Never.
Sewer plague.
Yeah. So the updated ones are in the base game, but I made some updates to them to fit my, onset time, cures, that sort of thing.
Just tell me what are the drops?
It's what I'm going through right now.
The drops is a disease that you catch it and you feel like intense pain in, say, your left arm. And the pain just gets worse and worse and worse. And then one day it literally just falls off. And it's like healed over. So you're not going to die from the drops, but you can lose multiple limbs.
I thought you just were like clumsy. Oopsie,
No.
I got the drops.
No, these are real diseases that really fuck you up. It looks like it's awesome, which I cruise.
Oh, all
So,
right.
on that bombshell.
This is all right. So there is a ton, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I try to keep it
on over there.
organized. So, by magic item type, or by, NPCs, by monsters. Here's a bunch of the minerals and stuff metals and minerals we were talking about. All sorts of new stuff.
So if you're out there and you're running, and you're either homebrewing or you've thought about homebrewing, this is an absolute treasure trove of ideas to I think both help you get started, and also maybe kickstart your own creativity too, right?
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
think what you said is it's not, there's no box, there's no
No.
end, right? It's an unlimited sort of, you can create whatever you want, right? And so this is really great to see, all of these ideas, and so these could help somebody with their game, and it could also help unlock their own creativity. Nathan, Amethyst Dragon, again, anything else you want to hit us with?
Just have fun. Whether the stuff I've made, your own stuff, have fun. D&D is a game. You can be serious about it, but in the end, it is a game, and it's a wonderful game.
It is. Well, thank you for being on. Much appreciated.
Yep.
Definitely, when, you get ready to go to print, or if you do end up next year going to one of the cons or something like that, you want to like give a shout out, let us know.
Sure.
We'll be here most Thursday nights. So thank you everybody who tuned in. Thanks anybody
thank
who
you.
watches this later.
Yep.
And thanks again to the Amethyst Dragon for coming on and sharing
Yeah.
all this amazing homebrew material.
Yes, it
Until
is
next
amazing.
time, everybody enjoy, play games, right? Be good to each other. And remember, you're never too old to roll.
Yep. That's it. Goodbye.